Welcome everybody to a brand new season of the Bennett Bros Wrestling Corner. Oakland 93, always in the place to be. Hope your weekend was as easy as using a napkin. Mine sure was. Yeah. For the first episode of season 4. Yes, like 4, like the 4 horsemen. You know, diamonds are forever, and so are the horsemen. For the first episode of season 4, oh boy. You know, 2 topics come to mind. Of course, you know, last week, you know, was Impact, with TNA, you know, / Impact Wrestling's return, and also their debut. Not only did it return to broadcast, but also their debut on Destination America. And the second topic, which I think, you know, even though in the text it was last, but I think I'm going to just get this out of the way, was Ascension's comments on, you know, comments from last week's Raw towards Hawk. Believe it or not, but I bet you a lot of you guys believed it even after they said it. It basically caused pretty much a firestorm throughout the, you know, I guess the internet, not just from fans, but it seems like fellow wrestlers as well. For Thai wrestlers, still never mind, still wrestlers, period. So yeah, those are the 2 topics that are going to be talked about on episode 1 of season 4 of the Bennett Bros Wrestling Corner.
Now these people, for some reason, they believe in you.
Yes, I do.
That you are going to write the next chapter in the ultimate underdog story.
Yes.
Because you represent them.
Yes.
You're an average Joe, just like they are.
Yes.
You were able to overcome the odds
Yes.
one night. They believe in you. Your wife Bree believes in you. Your unborn foxtrot children believe in you. But I have to ask you, Daniel, do you really believe in yourself? When you look inside your heart, are you ready to do this all over again?
Oh yeah, by the way, because I don't think I have done this in a while, and it seems apropos to start it back up for the new season. This Bennett Bros Wrestling Corner is brought to you by USBs. You know, I believe I did USB before, but you know, you got to remind yourself to save your data on these just in case, you know, I'm pointing right now at my laptop, you know, just in case, you know, that laptop of yours gets corrupted. And, you know, you don't have to worry about, you have all your files. If you don't have a backup, you know, you have it here. So, yeah, this Bennett Bros Wrestling Corner is being brought to you by USBs, which actually, I bet you a lot of people, and I didn't find out until, you know, my computer class, basically what USB stands for. But you know what? I think my memory's a little bit shaky right now, so you know what? I'm gonna look it up again. There you go. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. Tell her, Brian. Yes. That's right. One more time.
Well, the one thing a silver spoon does afford you, Daniel, is an education. And clearly you're not smart enough to listen to reason. So since you want to fight so bad, your first match back is not going to be the Royal Rumble match. It's going to be on SmackDown on its new night this Thursday night against someone I believe you are very familiar with.
That shouldn't even be a surprise because they announced that Bryan was going to have his first match. Uh, was going to have his first match on SmackDown. I think last week. I think on the actual SmackDown. And I only see so kick his ass, kick his ass. Yeah, literally kick. No. Oh no. No. Well, who's this coming? Oh, wow, yeah, yeah. Not Bryan, got it. Oh! He's not dead yet. Oh! Bryan, I mean, what was Kane grabbing? Right. So, yeah, the Ascension last week, you know, what's going on here? Oh. Lesnar. Yeah, but oh, city chants. You know, the Ascension last week, they made a comment. You know, they, you know, they talked about the demolition, but you know, their comments towards LOD is what was the most emphatic. You know, bringing up, you know, mocking the famous, oh, what a rush. No, what a joke. Now, I would like to believe that WWE, that came from them. I would like to believe that. However, if it didn't, and that was all ad lib, that they just went old school and just said, hey, you guys go out there and just make a comment about the comparisons that you guys are getting, the comparison that you guys are getting of the likes of LOD and Demolition. Go out there, make a comment, and that's it. Not word from word. You just go out there and make a comment, and leave it up to you, whatever comment it is. Whatever scenario it was, it got people talking. I found out that Lance Storm, that he put on Twitter. I found out he put on Twitter that he immediately turned off Raw after that. No. And now, a couple of, if Robert, if you're watching this, I remember you asking me about, what was my take on, the whole LOD comment. And Nathan, I know you're watching this. We also briefly talked about it in the Bennett Bros chat, Bennett Wrestling chat. Whether it was, scripted by the writers, or whether it was just, once again, the other scenario, just Ascension, they were given a bullet point and everything else was left for them. They just had to make sure that it stuck to that bullet point of making a comment towards, an insult towards LOD and Demolition. I remember telling you, Nathan, that hopefully I'm wrong, but that, depending on the follow-up and depending on the response, how will fans later on respond to that, depending on those things, it could be, whether it could be a pretty much a career killer for the Ascension in terms of the main roster wise. You never know. You never know with those type of comments. The crowd could just start booing them, not because they're heels, just because, and that would be the case of like X-Pac heat or Go Away heat. We just don't like you, period. We really don't like you. Like, personally, we don't like you. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's not a career kill in terms of them on the main roster. Because I was making the joke that it might be a meme because before, yeah, what's that old saying? You had Connor, hey yo Vic. I said, the meme might be, hey yo Vic, I think we just killed our careers. So, um, but at the same time, at the same time, these comparisons, these um, these strong and specific comparisons that the Ascension, are getting, these LOD and Demolition and Power Pain, and now they even brought the Powers of Pain on SmackDown comparison. All of this, I believe, was basically enforced by the WWE because the Ascension did not always look like that. I don't know whose decision it was for them to basically look like, basically look like LOD, Demolition, and probably, but with the LOD, of course you're gonna get the strong LOD when you're wearing black and red with the shoulder pads because that's the significant color of LOD. They wore plenty other. They wore black. They wore yellow and black. They wore blue and black. But their signature color has always been red and black. But all of that was basically, what the hell is Tyson Kidd doing? It was basically enforced by the WWE. That's what I think. Unless it was the Ascension I did that make that addition, that add that paint to them. But if it wasn't, then I just have to believe that WWE is bringing. Seems like they're not going to shy away from the comparisons that the LOD and Demolition comparisons. Oh, they're not going to shy away from it. But they can't. But it was enforced by them. They are further reinforcing, especially by now having the Ascension, basically bring up these comparisons. These are further, the comparison is further being enforced by WWE. It's like they're enforcing it them. They're enforcing the comparison even more. This is being enforced. But once again, I just think that because not just with the Road Warrior, but just the mocking the Hawk comment. Since Hawk, is no longer with us, it has more of an impact. And now I know, and this is the last time I'm gonna say, I was talking with Chris about this. He even agreed with me that one might say, but Big Show and Randy Orton, they've made kind of insults towards some real insults to fallen wrestlers. I remember when Big Show was like, I remember he had a problem with Cena back in 2006. I think during the Champion of Champions building, it was like, if Andre the Giant was still alive, I'll kick his ass too. And that got boos. And then who can ever forget Randy Orton's comments by Eddie Guerrero during the build-up for WrestleMania 22. However, the difference between the Ascension and Randy Orton and Big Show, by the time why the Ascension thing could be a career killer, maybe in some people, because and you compare them to the Big Show and Randy Orton. But at that time, when Big Show and Randy made those comments, they were already established people. He was already, Randy Orton was already established himself as the legend killer and everything. Big Show had already been in wrestling for officially at that time 11 years. It was 2006. The Ascension, they're basically just getting their foot into the door in terms of WWE, in terms of the main roster. So it's a bit different. It's a bit different. You know, so yeah, that's probably all I have to say about the Ascension, comments from last week. And I'm not running anywhere, Mr. Wyatt. Let me see. A comment. We got J Flow. Well, J Flow's into his house. I'm doing good. I'm doing good, J Flow. How about you? Okay. Uh, okay. I will, say Nathan's first comment when I move on to TNA. Okay, but this is Nathan's most recent comment. Sources have described Vince McMahon as being very grumpy lately, and it's said that he does not like the perception that NXT is putting on better shows than the main roster. The whole idea behind NXT is that they get talents ready for the main roster. Vince is said to be very dismissive of NXT's success and reportedly feels that some of the NXT stars are overrated. Hold on. All right. I believe my friend Nate, when he told me about this. And you know what? I don't think it's too far fetched that there would be some disgruntled people in the main roster, whether higher ups or wrestlers, about fans, having believing that NXT, is the better show. Even though that people believe NXT is the better show. I don't feel it's far fetched for there to be some people, yeah, in the main roster that this shouldn't be happening. No, this shouldn't be happening. This is only supposed to be a developmental. It's only supposed to be a developmental. Like a developmental circuit. It was no way intention for them to be perceived bigger or better than the people on the main roster. I can't find that hard to believe. I just can't. I cannot find hard to believe that there will be people, and probably, then so if it is true, but just people period up in a minute that would feel that would feel like that they feel upset about that. I just don't find that too far fetched. I find it actually believable. I really do. You know, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Be on top of me, yeah. Look you. About time. At first, not gonna lie, I thought they were going to pull off some swerve when they kept expected to be, expected. I'm like, don't tell you gonna pull off some swerve. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did I just see who I think I saw in that crowd? Oh, I thought I saw the guy, the famous guy, the WrestleMania guy, the glasses and everything from the Undertaker lost. I thought I saw him in the crowd. It only seems right. If not Hogan, Steamboat, and if not Steamboat, DDP. And here's the Ascension. Okay. There ain't no one comment. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and if not, if they're not, and also if not those guys, then of course, yeah, his brother. See now, now you see, I don't think it would have been a firestorm if the Sun just cut that promo. Ah! No! I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty funny. He's Asian, not Cajun. I mean, Mega Power maybe the best makeshift tag, maybe one of the best makeshift tag with the start when you put in to play the star power. You see, I find you know, oh my god, I find JBL's comments towards the Ascension, you know, pretty interesting because you know, but at the same time, you know, look, it's old school to have people debut against the enhancement talent instead of, you know, having, an establishment just take that spot, just get dominated by, the person. It was old school for, them to go through those jobbers. But my thing is that I would like for if J Bill's gonna respond like that to the Ascension doing it. And yes, it is weird that you sit down to pee. If he's going to do that towards the Ascension, if they have matches against enhancement talent, then I would like to see consistency. That the next person that's brought into the WWE, if that person that, even though, yeah, it's a that's how you build some. That's how you in the old school you build somebody up. You build them against some enhancement talent, but even still, JBL is still going okay until they go against somebody that's going to fight back or somebody that's established. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I would like to see that consistency because that's like the realistic. That's like the realistic idea, the realistic mindset. You see somebody go against, the hands time. You're like, okay, their moveset looks pretty good. But this, you're in the back of your mind, like, okay, let me see how they fare against, just throw out a who's who. They just throw out a popular name. That's a realistic mindset. So that's why I really don't mind JBL, doing this. However, I would like to see it more consistent. If somebody else does it, he has the same thing. Now, I bet you there are some people feeling that maybe this is a way of WWE, sticking it to NXT. Um, okay. No matter what the odds do, we're ready when you need us. Hey, Big Rick is into his house. Hey, Malcolm, how are things on your end? And it is about damn time that the Macho Man Randy Savage gets inducted in the Hall of Fame. Damn right, Big Rick. How's it going down there? In the land down under. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Jared responding. I'm doing well. First day back from college for the semester, and a little homework, but otherwise I'm doing well. Yeah. Nope. Same thing for me. Well, Wednesday I go back for the start the first day of the new semester, the winter semester. I've basically been off for practically a month. But I'm ready to go back. I like my college. I like the atmosphere. My first semester, Never had a bad day, and I hope I can say the same thing for this upcoming semester. All right. Invictus says, "What up, Malcolm? What up, Invictus? What's up, man? See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, they announced that before. I think on Main Event or so. Which was supposed to be Kevin Nash, this Raw reunion. But what? For those of you that don't know what happened to Kevin Nash, during Christmas, I believe during Christmas or New Year's, or yeah, I think it was Christmas. Had a quote unquote bloody altercation with his son. Okay. Wait, Lana, what happened to the back of your hair? Well, first I'm like, what's wrong with Lana's hair? The back of her hair. Okay. Look at Russo. But yeah, and now I think it's time to move on to, TNA Impact. Impact, no, oh guys, no longer TNA, just TNA Impact. Impact Wrestling made their return, and also their debut on Destination America. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I wish that TNA could make some sort of deal with the Manhattan Center. I feel the Manhattan Center is very welcoming to TNA. I think it's it brings a good atmosphere. The crowd is into the action. I really wish that TNA could make Manhattan Center their home, because that crowd has been very well for them during the summer tapings, and now with this, and now judging from even this first show back, which was live. They, I really think it doesn't look like like Lana tried to rub the back of her head, against like a rug or something to catch static. I mean, look at it. See, I like this right here. This is a good way to, taking pot shots at Ryback. The way to continue the feud, to let the feud still be in everybody's mind, that eventually we're going to have Ryback versus Rusev. But I found the opening, it was different. You had it's Ambrose. But the intro, it was different. You had all the wrestlers in a separate, like, like in a separate, I guess, Jeep limo. And, you got, Rude saying, this is our time to show that we're the best of the best. and you got James Storm. It's time for the revolution. And at first I'm thinking, I know they're not all in the same limo saying this without fighting or something. Them coming, arriving to, the Manhattan Center. And then, they all get out. Even before that, you see Bobby Lashley, waking up. And, you can see, the New York skyline, him open up the window. You see Gail Kim coming out of fitness and zipping up her hoodie. You see Taryn Terrell in the shower. You see Jeff Hardy come all painted up. And it was so funny. He's all painted up in his wrestling gear, but he didn't even wrestle that. Even wrestle on that night. And he takes a picture with a fan. And you see all this other stuff. And, after they all get out the car, they're separate limos. And you got Rude and Bobby Lashley, Stanford. I said it after the show. I'm like, why did I get off a hip hop feud feel? Like, you got Bobby Roode with his posse, and then you got Bobby Lashley, with his posse. You got the two Bobbies with their posses, and leave it up to, the annoying Kenny King, leave it up to himself to start it all. And this big brawl happens that starts outside and goes all the way into the knock. I'm about to say knockout. They were involved into it. It goes all the way into the Manhattan Center. I knew that TNA would start with something wild and big for their debut on Destination America. I even said that, if I was TNA, I would try to give this a big thing feeling. And, I don't want to rain on TNA's parade. I felt the brawl was pretty good. It was pretty cool to actually the knockouts involved in the brawl too. It wasn't just the males. No, the knockouts were involved too. However, it just seems weird. In the context, it seems weird that people of the likes of Revolution, Revolution, Jessica Havoc, Revolution, Jessica Havoc, would be in the same limo, just be in the same vicinity and kind of get along in a way. I don't know, get along, but just with the likes of MVP, your MVPs, your Bromance, your, EC3 was in the bro. I didn't see EC3 in there. I don't think he arrived yet. All that. It just seemed like in the context, in terms of the faces, because we've seen Eric Young and Bobby Roode and now Spud and Eric Young have relationships, but in the context, it just seemed weird that we have an impromptu match. It just seemed weird to have some of the heels together. I get that they're heels, but I always feel that, just because the person's a heel doesn't mean they should get along. They should automatically get along with another. And just the same goes for a face. I have no problem when some faces they don't get along with another, but that doesn't mean that they I'm just gonna throw the knee. It's not like it's gonna lead to I'm just gonna throw a comic book reference. Being around Chris, I know a lot. I know some things. Like a Marvel event with the heroes fighting the heroes. No, but just that they're not so buddy. Okay, we're fighting on the same side, but that doesn't necessarily mean I like you. I can team up with you, but I don't necessarily like for instance, with CM Punk and John Cena both faces. Yeah, CM Punk had respect for John, but at the same time, he wasn't necessarily buddy with him. Same thing for Ambrose and Cena. You see how their relationship was? They weren't really best of friends. Same thing for heels. So it just seemed weird with Havoc and the evolution with MVP and them, and and I think I'm going on too much about that, but um, then it led to Kurt Angle coming out, making matches, making, that was going to be, that Taryn Terrell was going to defend her title, Loki was going to defend his X Division title, the Revolution, Abyss and James Storm were going to defend their titles. And of course, it was announced already that Bobby Roode and Lashley would have to defend his title. I'm trying to hear what. Oh, okay. And then MVP, he was in the brawl. He would get cut on. He would get on the mic. Oh, hold up! He would get on the mic, and resistant feud between problems with him and Kurt. One of the last ones you saw before Impact took so the last episode 2014. We saw MVP attack Kurt Angle from behind, and man, New York. I don't know what MVP did before the show, or New York just does not like MVP, or or the man just doesn't like MVP. I don't know, or just gonna be that's just New York letting you have it, showing you how they feel, letting you know how they feel. They just rided MVP. You was hearing MV pussy chants, and when he started talking, shut the F up. I mean, throughout that whole night, mostly all the bleeps that came, it didn't even come from the wrestlers. It came from the crowd chants. And MVP got some real heat, by making a reference to the police force, NYPD, force, for when they turned their back on the mayor. He basically brought that up. And we kind of found that Kurt Angle, he stepped down as, executive of, too many executive names, of talent relations. And he's now back as a wrestler. And made his first, made one last match before he stepped down officially, which was basically a street fight between him and MVP. And it started right there with Kurt Angle knocking the crap out of him. Come on now. But the goddamn that was his most goofiest looking run. But match between Kurt Angle and MVP, MVP and Kurt in street fight. That was good to see Kurt back, but how can I put it? It was good to see. MVP was doing a lot of like grounded submission, like he was doing a lot of takedowns, but I don't even know if they really used. I didn't really feel like it was a street fight. Besides MVP using the chair and everything, but it just felt like what they did could have been done in just a regular match, except for MVP using the chair. But it was good to see Kringle back, and Kringle got the win with the angle slam, and MVP, I guess, kicked out at 3, and had a complaint about that, but Kringle got his first win back, got his first win after coming back into in-ring competition. But then we would get Then we would get the tag titles. But yeah, we got the tag titles on the line. You know, the Wolves versus, you know, basically took the belts from them, you know, Abyss and James Storm for the titles. And I found the addition when I first saw, you know, the Wolves come out. When they saw the Wolves come out, and you know they had, and I saw the claw mark. I remember thinking, what the hell just happened? So now I'm like, oh shoot, like, oh, that's a cool addition. That's a cool, like the wolf's claw. Like that was a good addition. You know, to make them even stand out even more. Like, so if their wrestling ability, I feel their wrestling ability stand out as it is, but you know, if that doesn't stand out to you, then just that might stand out to you. Just that big claw painting on them. You know, from what I saw, because after a while, me and Chris, we stepped in the kitchen. So, and by the time we came back in, the match was over. It wasn't even a long match. But it was good to see. It was crazy to see the Wolves. They went on like a suicide dive, like barrage. And it looked funny that was happening on James Storm. Cause I'm like, okay, I gotta understand it happened to Abyss because Abyss is a big guy. So, but I'm like, wow, James Storm just keep getting up and getting knocked back down. But when I saw in the replay, I can even before the Hardys came out, before the match even started, and I had to feel okay. Somehow they're going to play in a role into the finish. And I found out when I came back from me and Chris that they did. I guess, Jeff tried to help, and I guess he knocked into Davey or Eddie, and then, last call super kick and the Revolution retained their titles. Then, we would get, Loki would defend his title, not against Joe, who was there. No, he defend his title against Austin Aries. And look, that's a match I'll pay to see. Austin Aries and Loki. That's a match I will pay to see. And it was a good match. I enjoyed the match. But I found it surprising Austin Aries getting the belt back, getting X Division belt back. And let me be specific. Him beating Loki's not surprising. Not like, oh, I can't believe Austin Aries beat Loki. Just Loki after they return, he loses his belt. But it was a good match. It wasn't no chicanery, no dirty finish. No, it was a clean finish. Then I believe they took a break from the wrestling, and we had a segment between EC3, Tyrus, Rockstar Spud, and Jeremy Borash. And man, I love when Jerry Borash slapped the taste out of EC3 mouth. That was payback for, when EC3 did it. But, Jerry Borash paid the price. He got what was intended for Spud. He got his head shaved. Crowd was giving it to EC3. And here's the thing by EC3. EC3, in terms of his non-in-ring work, yeah, he's a great heel. He's great. I think he's good for his non-in-ring work. I just hope that eventually his in-ring work can match his non-in-ring work. I really hope so, because in terms of his in-ring work, nothing really stands out to me. But so that was a pretty segment to give, EC3 he, and also to make a fan want to see Spud, beat EC3 even more. Um, then, uh, yeah, I think all the matches. Yeah, I think all the matches were title matches. And then we had, and I thought that Taryn was going to defend her belt against, you know, Jessica Havoc. You know, I thought in a regular match. Next thing you know, turns out it's, it's a battle royal with all the knock, and I'm thinking, that's interesting. And I'm trying, I'm trying to remember before. I think I'm trying to remember when. I don't think it changed when Tara before she won the belt, but I think it changed after. Um, you know, the the Knockouts Championship is remodeled. It's no longer the white strap; it's a black strap. It's almost like how the X Division title look. Instead of it's a black strap and it's got blue coloring on it. And I think it's pretty nice looking. So for the first time since 2000, since its inception, the Knockouts Championship has a second model. Um, and the Battle Royal, what can I say? It wasn't anything special, but but what was so funny is that they almost took a good majority of the bromance cutting a promo. I know they're with the beautiful people, and I'm thinking the bromance have nothing to do with this match, but yet you're giving them most of the time of the knockout spot. They have nothing to do with they're with but they're not. They have really nothing to do with this. Robbie E's back and got a new hairstyle, and I'm surprised New York even gave him a chant, a complimentary chant to be exact. And I'm like, so now you're really late, bro. He's always say, bro. Far too late. That you finally dropped the Jersey Shore haircut. It's like, wow, you're really late to that boat. Um, and he took some shots at Brooke, who was his on what is it the, the Great Race or um, I'm forgetting the show's name. And so like around when all the members of the Beautiful got eliminated, Brooke Taylor will make her return to TNA. And I'm happy because I like Brooke. She's definitely improved. When she won the Knockouts title, I feel that all those matches with Gail really helped out, and she whooped the hell out of the Beautiful people and the bro man. You had, DJ Xeon try to contain her. She knocked him off, and she chased them all backstage. And then it came down to Gail, Havoc, and Taryn, and it looked, I believe Havoc, she was gonna, she lifted up and Gail, I think, locked her up like in a head scissors, and they was about to fall over, and basically Taryn picked her spot. But that was not the end. Havoc, Jessica being Jessica, not gonna take that line down, made him more angry and attacked, Taryn. And I'm first thinking, okay, where's Gail to help Taryn? I'm thinking this is going way too long and everything. Then the lights go out. And somebody should have told me. I know something to do with that. Somebody special, but somebody should have told me that it was this specific person. And I'm going right now and saying it's one of my already. To me, it's already moment of the year for me. The lights come back on. And it's freaking awesome. Come back into they staring eye to eye with Jessica Havoc, and that crowd ate that moment up. They could have been eating up Kong's moment, Kong being back, but also they could have just been eating up the moment of just seeing those two face to face. Man, they didn't come to blows. But and then you had Stifler after Havoc left. You had Stifler, you know, really I guess how can I put it? Kind of basically stepping over his boundaries and everything. He's all in Kong's face for no apparent reason. Like and like Kong's not even doing anything. And Kong just the hell with it and freaking choke slammed him.
You are upset that this match has turned into a triple threat match. Why do you say I'm upset that it turned into a triple threat match for one very simple reason? Because you see, a triple threat to me could also be a double cross. A double cross with a reigning, defending, undisputed WWE.
But wait, hold on.
In order to lose the championship. Look damn right. I'm not happy. Very receptive. They spelled out the rules for every single triple threat match there ever was inside the WWE ring. But let me get this straight.
But
Lesnar has a list of accomplishments that is
but this was that to me was the moment of the night. See, I thought because I never thought that I would see Kong back in TNA because for she's gone on record plenty of times saying
he doesn't have mine. So let me spell this out for you. I am Seth Rollins. I built the Shield. I destroyed the Shield.
That
I am Mr. Money in the Bank. I single-handedly
she's gonna replay this, and she would have loved to come back WWE. She was just waiting for a call, and every time she called, they always gave her we have nothing for you, statement. She always would get that. And I just never thought she would come to TNA after the way, things, ended between the relationship between TNA and because when they asked Kong to come back for the first ever, I believe the first ever knockdown one night only pay-per-view, she declined it. So it's great to see Kong back. I even like the red highlighted dreads. But however, this is a moment. This is something that I'm not gonna do a little hit before. Kong and Jessica Havoc, they have teamed up in the promotion Shine. They have teamed up before, but they.
You don't have to get pinned at the Royal Rumble to lose that championship. But you're going to get pinned at the Royal Rumble to lose that championship.
No. But they've never faced off before.
And Triple H, you think you can set the table by putting him in this match? Here's the way I see it. You're a businessman. He's a beast. You owe him a beatdown. And I'm sure it's how you a beatdown. So at the Royal Rumble, we're going to kick your ass, and then I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. So, but I think TNA, man, I said it before, TNA. I think how much flag TNA will get if they was to really mess up, Kong versus Havoc. This is something that female wrestling fans.
Keep the authority out of power. Good, right? Oh, hey guys. Hey. Strike one, John. You failed. And tonight, you came out here in front of all these people and you had a plan.
They're able to, how much flack they would get. This is something that female wrestling fans that know both of them. No, this is something that people been clamoring since 2011 when Jessica Rabbit really got popular. This is something that they've been looking for. So TNA, please don't mess up. And since this is the first time ever, this for now they gonna work together. I would like to see if they have the chemistry that I hope that they do. I really do. That was the moment of the night. Then came John. So, wait a minute. Oh, hey, John. Stop now. Brock's might get another curb stop. Oh, and he didn't do it without help. He didn't do it without help. That that adds some credibility to Rollins. He didn't do it without help. Then comes the main event. Oh yeah, okay. I've got to look at the comment. Uh, Here we go. Big Rick. Here we go. I'm doing well, Mark. I'll start my new teaching course late next month, and it has been wet and hurry, no humid across Australia following the monsoon going down south. Hopefully, breaking the drought affected interior. Apart from that, I'm fine. Oh, that's good, Big Rick. No, I'm talking about definitely. Mostly, I'm talking. Hear that? New teaching course. That's interesting. Okay. And Nathan, TNA has announced that Awesome Kong has been added to the roster for the upcoming tour of the UK on January 29th in Glasgow, um, and um, and the 30th of January in Manchester, and the 31st in Wembley. That's good to know. Oh shoot. Um, then comes the main event. To be quite honest, since this was built up as the third match between Bobby Roode and Lashley, I thought it was going to be pretty epic and stuff. I enjoyed their first two matches. I thought, and they were even stealing their own moves and stuff, but still, I'm not so sure if it felt as big as it was, but I guess because it was leading up to some big angle, because after MVP, his match with Curry, he was going how I'm sick of this company, I'm sick of being time to do things, to go change the plans or whatever. And then while the match, you see in another box, you see MVP coming with two guys wearing these masks, these big smiling masks on. And I'm wondering, okay, who are these guys? TNA gonna try to do something big with, maybe some two new debuts. And ref bump happens, thanks to Kenny King and the guys. And then the guys get on the apron, the mask guys. And the first guy pull up, and the smaller guy pull off his mask. And it's Loki of all people. And I'm like, what? And then the bigger guy takes off, and it's Samoa freaking Joe. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then when they look like they're about to get on the roof, EY comes in. EY comes with a chair. Looks like he's gonna save Baru, only for him to attack Rude. And I'm like, and turn heel. I'm thinking, what the hell is happening? I'm like, we just saw three heel turns, not because three straight heel, but the reason I'm thinking, wait, why is this happening? So it seems to me that just in one day span, whatever it's gonna be, that EY and then Loki and Samoa Joe, hey, let's go with MVP. And then like Chris saw, that after before I forgot, I'm skipping ahead. Lashley, I think he hit the spear. Yeah, he did. And he would win his belt back. It don't look like this was Lashley's pin. He looked around like, what the hell just happened? I know I won the belt. So yeah, Rude after coming back, after TNA comes back, yeah, he loses his TNA championship. And so yeah, we got these three heel turns. I'm thinking, why? Wait, huh? It just didn't seem to make sense. And it's to the point where I'm thinking, look, I could be wrong. I'm not going to say that. Look, EY, as I've already said, these heel runs are going to suck. No, I don't know that, but I'm not even sure if the explanation for these turns are going to make some sense. I know, like I was saying, that Chris saw after, when before the show went off, you saw Samoa Joe go like, they're like all about, almost like, yeah, it's all about the money. And I'm thinking, doesn't that just go against Samoa Joe's character? And that's not the first time. And that was not the first time that basically Samoa Joe's turned heel. And it's kind of going, like, you remember when he turned heel to go with the Man of Mafia, and somehow that was all part of the plan, and it was because he went for the money. And then I think all the shocking has to be Loki. I'm thinking, why? Kurt tried. I forgot. Yeah, Kurt tried to help, and that's when he got jumped by them before they revealed their masks, revealed themselves. And then Eric Young, after helping, Spud a little bit, all of a sudden he now turns heel. And even Chris, like, man, now TNA, they're basically heel heavy. And I counted, I'm like, yeah, it's 15, not counting the knockouts, but it's almost like 15. It's almost like 15, single heels or tag team heels to the 8 faces. And if it's true that Alberto Rios coming, I'm assuming or hoping that he comes back. He comes to TNA as a face, because they got too many heels right now. You just had Eric Young. You had Eric Young. Yeah, Eric Young. Samoa Joe and Loki turned heel for a reason we don't know. Now we have to wait until this Friday to find out. But it just felt so Russo. It just seemed to be done just to be done. Like, give a shock, something shock, just like shock value. Because we're going on Destination America. If that was not the reason, then okay. But it just for me, it felt like that was reason just to get something, have something shocking happen, in the closing moment because we're on Destination America. I don't get it. I predicted the explanation is not even gonna make it even more sensible. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I don't understand. Even if the face, I'm not so sure if that was the right move to have all three of them turn heel and look like siding up with MVP, especially Eric Young of all people. You know, after MVP used him as a pawn and everything. But that's basically it for this Bennett Brothers Wrestling Corner. This was episode 1, the debut episode of the new season, season 4. We just saw Rollins further cement himself as a top heel by laying out both John and Brock Lesnar without help from the Authority. That was some pretty, good way to add some credibility. But other than that, there's Oakland 93 always in the place to be. Hope you have a nice weekend. And until the next Bennett Brothers Wrestling Corner, wait, I thought of a new comment. Until then, peace.